Trump needles Canada again as accusations swirl about Mark Carney's old job. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
Navigating the issues that matter to you. It's Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
There he goes again.
We support Canada. $200 billion a year in subsidies, one way or the other. We let them make millions of cars. We let them send us lumber. We don't need their lumber. We're going to free up our lumber. Lee's going to do the head of environmental. We're going to free up our lumber. We have the best lumber there is. We don't need their lumber. What do we need their lumber for? When you look at we subsidize them $200 billion a year. Without us, Canada can't make it. You know, Canada relies on us 95%. We rely on them 4%. Big difference.
That was U.S. President Donald Trump blasting Canada again, this time as he held a news conference with members of his cabinet.
When I spoke to, let's call it the Prime Minister rather than the Governor, but when I spoke to him, I said, why are we giving you $200 billion a year? He was unable to answer the question. I said, why are we letting you make millions of cars and send them in? He was unable to answer the question. Justin Trudeau, a nice guy. I think he's a very good guy. I call him Governor Trudeau. He should be governor because the fact is that if we don't give them cars, we don't have to give them cars. The tariffs will make it impossible for them to sell cars into the United States. The tariffs will make it impossible for them to sell lumber or anything else into the United States. And all I'm asking to do is break even or lose a little bit, but not lose $200 billion. And we love Canada. I love Canada. I love the people of Canada. And but honestly, it's not fair for us to be supporting Canada. And if we don't support them, they don't subsist as a nation.
Trump insisted the tariffs are coming. Originally, those tariffs were supposed to come into force February 4th. And there was a 30-day delay that was supposed to expire March 4th. That's next Tuesday. While Trump was slamming Canada again, Liberal cabinet ministers were meeting in Ottawa. Canada's industry minister, François-Philippe Champagne, said the Canadian side is taking things step by step.
Listen to what the president says very carefully, but at the same time, the only way you can operate like that is to make sure that you act on the basis of signed executive orders so that you know exactly the rules and the details. So our mission is still to seek that we don't apply the tariff. That's certainly our mission number one.
But the NDP leader, Jagmeet Singh, is amping up his anti-Trump tone. He's calling Trump a fascist who should be banned from entering Canada, including coming to this summer's G7 summit in Kananaskis, Alberta.
Donald Trump should not be welcome here. Why would we invite someone who has threatened our very democracy, our very sovereignty? Why would we invite someone who has threatened our economic well-being? Why would we invite someone who threatens our allies and threatens the world's stability? Why would we allow a convicted criminal into our country? Why would we invite someone who has such disdain for multilateral organizations? Instead, what we should do is use the G7 summit as an opportunity to work with our allies on a plan to resist Donald Trump and his dangerous threats to the world.
While Canadian political leaders continue to react to whatever pours out of the mouth of Donald Trump, the frontrunner in the Liberal leadership race is embroiled in his own controversy. Mark Carney is being taken to task for remarks he made to a news reporter after the last Liberal leadership debate. He was asked about Brookfield Asset Management moving its headquarters from Toronto to New York. Carney claimed the company made that decision after he stepped down as chair of the board.
The formal decision of the board, happened after I ceased to be on the board. I do not have a connection with Brookfield Asset Management. No longer have a role, obviously, as I resigned in the middle of January.
But that doesn't appear to be true. In a November 4th letter to shareholders, the company's top executives said the company had changed its head office to New York. Mark Carney was still the chair of the board at that time, November 4th. This is Conservative MP and ethics critic Michael Barrett.
This is not surprising, but it is extraordinary to have Mark Carney stand before Canadians and in response to media questions to lie. It's now more important than ever that he disclose all of his financial interests and conflicts of interest, knowing that he's been advising the Liberals and Justin Trudeau for 5 years and not having disclosed what his interests were to this point.
The Carney campaign has yet to clarify the candidate's claims, other than to say it shows that, quote, Pierre Poilievre is scared of running against Mark Carney.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues
On News Radio.
Well, he's our friend on the right side of things. Michael Taube is a syndicated columnist, speechwriter for former Prime Minister Stephen Harper. How are you today?
I'm good, Rob. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Happy Election Day to you.
Yeah, you too.
How's the weather in Toronto? How's Election Day weather in Toronto? People going to be able to get out and vote today, no problem, or what?
Oh, I think they will. We had snow like you, and ours lasted for a few hours, but because it was warmer temperatures, it's above freezing. A fair amount of it is actually already melted away. Not completely, but, you know, sidewalks are getting better. People are getting around. So if people want to go out and vote in Toronto, they certainly can.
Okay. And you already did? Didn't take you too long? I saw a post on social media from you today. Yeah,
yeah,
no
it
problem.
was snap. I mean, but that's what's kind of interesting, and I'm sure we'll talk about it. It took me less than 3 minutes from start to finish, which is nothing. But there was virtually nobody around, no lineups. And yes, I did it on the early side, and more people will obviously do it, especially those coming home from work who want to do their civic duty. They'll obviously go in and vote. But it may be a sign, Rob, that the actual numbers or total voter turnout for 2025 could be lower than the record low that was set, as it happens, in 2022.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see that voter turnout number tomorrow. We have the Ontario PCs and Doug Ford seeking a third majority government with this snap election call. If that turns out to be the case and Ford secures the three-peat, what are you hoping from Premier Ford during a third term?
Well, I think it is mostly a foregone conclusion. It would take a dramatic turn of events for something to change, and no polling data, no comments that you hear, nothing's being written, nothing's being said to say otherwise. So let's go with the hypothetical that it is going to happen and it will be a three-peat for Doug Ford. What I'm hoping will happen, and I discussed it in my column in the National Post, which ran late yesterday afternoon, is basically that I'm hoping that finally we see that Doug Ford's long-hidden inner fiscal conservative finally comes back out, and we can actually have, well, a government that certainly I'd be happy with and a lot of others would be happy with too, because, you know, we're looking at the facts and figures, and to be sure, and I'm sure you've discussed it with some of your other guests, Rob, this has not been a fiscally prudent provincial election. I mean, generally speaking, it's not, but this has really been a bad one in the sense that every single political party, including the one that should be at least fiscally responsible, that being Doug Ford and the PCs, has promised, well, the moon and then some on almost everything. You know, the PCs came out with their platform, Protect Ontario, and the total amount of campaign promises there was $40 billion, of which about half is related to any possible effect that Donald Trump's tariffs might have if they're ever implemented, and then would have to be utilized to protect individuals, businesses, and otherwise. Now, in fairness, the PC platform, in terms of their campaign promises, is much lower than what the NDP and the Liberals are talking about, which is tens of billions higher for an enormous amount of spending. But everyone's being, unfortunately, a spendthrift in this election. And no one is suggesting that a government, right-leaning or left-leaning, shouldn't propose things like this. Obviously, you have to have a plan in order. You have to have ideas. You have to make campaign promises. But at the same time, one would certainly hope that, at least on the conservative side of things, they would be more fiscally responsible or prudent within their spending. As I said in my National Post column, to be fair, if half of the money that has been promised or has not been realized or doesn't have to be realized, if for some reason U.S. President Donald Trump never brings in the tariffs, or they come in at a very much lower amount, or it's for a much shorter period of time, then the full effect of what Doug Ford and the PCs have actually proposed will not come to fruition, and it won't be nearly as bad as what the party platform currently looks like. If it does happen, that's a different issue in itself. My hope is still that Doug Ford, when he becomes, or, you can say if you like, but I think it's pretty much certain, when he becomes a three-peat, as you called it, Ontario Premier, my hope is that the fiscal conservative sensibilities that, yes, believe it or not, they do exist with this man. They existed early in his career politically when he was a city councillor in Toronto and whatnot. I just hope a lot of it comes back out once he takes the reins of government yet again, because that's the time where the differences between making campaign promises, which could change as the situation changes, the economy, etc. I'm hoping that there will be at least a rational comeuppance, so to speak, and that he will then look towards fiscal conservatism once more, because he wants to have a good legacy no matter what he does, whether he stays provincially or federally. That should be the most important thing. And being a spendthrift premier is not a great label to have.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, especially as you mentioned, part of the whole Ford Brothers brand at the time, back when they were at Toronto City Hall, was the whole stop the gravy train thing.
Right.
That was part of the whole Ford political brand. I remember
Ford
interviewing.
Nation.
Yeah, Ford Nation. And I remember interviewing Premier Ford, many, many years ago when he was seeking the premier's job the first time around. And he was telling me, Rob, are you telling me I can't go down to Queen's Park and find savings of 4 cents on the dollar? Are you telling me we can't do that? And look, all of these years later, he's proven to be every bit the big spender that Kathleen Wynne was, or Dalton McGuinty was, the Liberal premiers that he ultimately replaced. So hope springs eternal, Michael. We'll see.
It has to. What else can we wish for? Exactly.
We'll see what happens. Okay, when we come back, we'll talk about the great one, Wayne Gretzky, and this push on, a petition with hundreds of thousands of signatures on it to rescind the Canadian citizenship of Elon Musk. Michael Taube is with us here. What's your opinion of the criticism of Wayne Gretzky over his friendship with Donald Trump, and what do you think about the petition seeking to rescind Elon Musk's Canadian citizenship, Michael?
I don't think much of either of them, quite frankly. And I know some people will say, well, what do you expect someone like Taube to say? But at the same time, I think we have to look at this more realistically than just pure politics, although pure politics is what's determining both of these quote-unquote faux controversies. Or, sorry, we'll put the quotation under controversies. The faux is real. I think it's very silly. And firstly, people are allowed to be friends with whomever they want, work with whomever they want, support whomever they want, and yes, vote for whoever they want. If Wayne Gretzky, who has obviously appeared at a number of functions for Donald Trump in the past, and by the way, Wayne Gretzky has also appeared at functions, if you look around, for other Republicans because, yes, and he used to write for the National Post, Wayne Gretzky is a conservative, then you shouldn't be terribly surprised by this. The same way that trying to take away Elon Musk's Canadian citizenship because of his ties, again, to Donald Trump, because of his work with Doge, because of some of the comments he's made and some of the controversies, most of them not real, but people obviously want to pump them up as much as they possibly can to create controversy, so to speak. It's just very silly, the whole thing. And I think Canadians, and you and I have talked about this, I think Canadians have really taken a very overblown outlook on this. Quite a lot of them. I'm not saying everybody because you can't paint everyone with the same brushstroke. But there are a lot of Canadians who are, well, you've seen it, Rob, and I'm sure some of the listeners have caught it as well. People going on to social media and otherwise proudly trumpeting that they're not going to visit the United States. They're not buying U.S. products. They're not going to have anything to do.
That's a real thing.
Yeah, it's a real thing. It's crazy. It's not just one or two. It's many. And look, in the end, ultimately, we live in a free society. If people want to do it, that's fine. Why do you have to stand on your imaginary soapbox and tell us? Most of us don't care. We really don't. And the ones that do, all they're going to do is just nod at you or say, good for you, Bill, or good for you, Mary, or whomever. Like, really, do you need that much praise in your life? Like, are things so difficult for all of you that you can't handle the fact that people might think differently on this issue and that not everybody believes that we should restrict other countries because we either don't like the leader of a particular country or don't like policies or have smaller issues with them than your grandiose problems that you're making them out to be? That's the issue. And unfortunately, Wayne Gretzky, Elon Musk, and others, you have to assume over time, are going to get caught in this web. And I think the whole thing is very unfortunate. Respect the people for their abilities and what they've done. Whether, if you don't like the fact that they voted or supported a particular political leader, in this case being the current U.S. president, keep things to yourself. Sometimes that's the best way to do it. Silence is golden.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm a big fan of Donald Trump or Elon Musk or anything like that. But
I'm not suggesting that either.
I just think about this. Like, what would it say about our country? Okay, we disagree with your political viewpoint. We're taking away your citizenship.
No, it's so ridiculous.
Like, that's tyrannical.
Really
I'm sorry.
Well,
it's crazy.
You know what? And not to make this all about myself, Rob, the reaction that I got after I decided to endorse Donald Trump over Kamala Harris, which was a two-person race primarily, and I picked one over the other because I felt that he was far superior to her, and we don't have to go through all the reasons why. They should be painfully obvious by now. People were making out that I was some sort of traitor. It's just crazy.
Okay. Well, great to hear from you. I know you'll be watching the election returns tonight. Thank you again for your time, Michael. Great to hear from you. Michael Taube, syndicated columnist and speechwriter for former Prime Minister Stephen Harper.
The Newsday Panel.
Time for our Newsday Panel with Neil Brody, longtime conservative strategist, spent time in the Harper PMO. Good day to you.
Good day, Rob.
Jordan Paquette is here as well, senior consultant at Blue Sky Strategy Group. Welcome back, Jordan Paquette.
Thanks so much, Rob. Great to be here.
Jordan, what is your reaction to this Mark Carney controversy about his claims about Brookfield Asset Management moving its headquarters from Toronto to New York? What do you think about this?
Well, he's kind of really stepped into this, didn't he? I mean, it wasn't something initially. I mean, conservatives, I know, were pushing it out there. But this all comes back to the point that Canadians don't really know Mark Carney. I mean, they know his name, they know he's been out there, they know he's the Bank of Canada. But as you peel back beneath the surface, there's a lot of things that we don't know. And they're heading into an election soon. And he will be the prime minister in a couple of weeks. Perhaps he'll only be the prime minister for a couple of weeks, but he is going to win the leadership race, as is quite clear. And now he's faced with this with these criticisms of wrapping himself in the Canadian flag, as the Liberals are doing, as everybody's basically doing right now. But when push came to shove, and he was actually there to do something about it in the position of chair, it was a unanimous decision by the board to move the headquarters down to New York. And then he tries in the debate to say, like, oh, that decision was officially taken after the fact. Well, it may be the vote of the shareholders was that, but I mean, the vote of the shareholders is basically a rubber stamp of the board's decision. Mark Carney was chair of the board. It was his decision. And the way that he's trying to explain it now just isn't going to be good enough in the eyes of Canadians. And he's going to have to come much more clean on it soon.
Yeah, David, let's play the original kind of stepping at it, as Jordan would say. So it's after the leadership debate, and he's asked by a news reporter, what about this decision to move the headquarters from Toronto to New York? And this is what he had to say.
The decision, the formal decision of the board, happened after I ceased to be on the board. I do not have a connection with Brookfield Asset Management. No longer have a role, obviously, as I resigned in the middle of January.
The thing is, it's a publicly traded company, so any big move for this company, it has to be released publicly to all the shareholders. So it's not like you have to be, Woodward and Bernstein to follow the paper trail here. It was pretty easy to find out, and yet there's been no kind of clarification, no correction, anything here. What do you make of it, Neil? All of this Mark Carney stuff.
Well, Rob, we were talking, I think about a week ago, Mr. Carney had said something to a Vancouver audience about using any power, emergency powers, to get pipelines built. And then he went to Quebec and said in French that he would give provinces the opportunity to veto pipelines. And, last week we talked about when a politician loses that trust, I think the only politician who can do that and survive, his name is Justin Trudeau, and he's leaving because it's built up over time, and people get sick of that sort of antics by politicians. It's quite clear. Excellent reporting yesterday in the Globe story I saw by Steph Levitz, a friend of mine, that the decision was first announced in September and finalized in October last year, long before Mr. Carney resigned from the position he held at Brookfield Asset Management. So going out and trying to dance around the facts, I know some people are a little scared about calling him a liar because lawyers get involved when you call people liars. But if you say something that's not true, I don't know how a lawyer can argue that's not a lie. And I would just say that it's pretty close to the 6th anniversary of Mr. Trudeau first going out and saying, the allegations in the Globe story this morning are false, when he went out and ostensibly lied about his involvement in trying to get the criminal prosecution against SNC-Lavalin dropped. I don't know how Mr. Carney can survive this, but it's the leadership. He's got the Trudeau.
Well, just on that, Neil, if I could just jump in there, is there a different standard here for Mark Carney than, say, Christy Clark, who was pretty much pushed out of this race very, very early on for claiming she was never a card-carrying member of the Conservative Party?
Well, I think the difference is the entire Trudeau machine is behind Carney, and they weren't behind Ms. Clark or Ms. Dalla.
Okay. Let's listen to, this is the Minister of Natural Resources, Jonathan Wilkinson. He was on his way into the cabinet meeting yesterday on Parliament Hill, and was cornered by news reporters. This, to me, is kind of a dumbfounding answer from Mr. Wilkinson, but roll the tape there, David.
What I would say is, irrespective of this particular instance, anyone who knows anything about business knows that boards actually have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders. I wasn't in the room. I don't know what the conversations were. But I know Mr. Carney is a man of very high ethics. At the end of the day, his job as a chairman of a board is to act in the best interests of shareholders. I'm sure he did that. But in terms of the specifics, you've got to ask Mr. Carney.
Okay. I don't know if that's going to wash with a lot of people, especially now in this environment where so many people, Jordan, as you said, are wrapping themselves in the flag. Well, Mark Carney was just acting on behalf of his shareholders. How do you, like that? Come on.
I'm shocked, Rob. I hadn't heard that clip before. For a minister of the Crown to then go and defend his future boss, saying, "Oh, he was just acting in the interest of shareholders." Well, the interest of the shareholders was to move the company out of Canada into Donald Trump's backyard. And for him to, for Carney now to come out and say, "Oh, well, the official decision made," he was the chair of the board as the Conservatives produced that letter that wrote the letter to the shareholders, basically saying, totally recommending this go forward. And I'm sure it made him millions, and I'm sure he still holds shares in Brookfield Asset Management. We don't know because he won't disclose all his holdings right now, and he may not disclose them till after the election. But that to me is going to be part of his Achilles heel going forward. if he doesn't find a better way to answer these questions. This isn't just inside baseball, as the Liberals are going to try and fob it off to be. It's going to continue to grow if they don't come out and actually deal with this appropriately.
So now that, Neil, the two Liberal leadership debates are over and voting for supporters is underway, what do you think about what has been put in the window by these Liberal leadership hopefuls?
Well, I think from all we've really seen of these leadership contenders is what we saw in the debates, and I would say that voters, Liberal supporters, were given Goldilocks options. Ms. Gould was a little too hot as a Liberal. Mr. Bayless was a little too cold as a Liberal. And Ms. Freeland and Mr. Carney were just about right as Liberals. They've taken the reverso strategy of normal Liberals who normally campaign from the left and govern from the right, in that they're campaigning from the right, and I would expect them to campaign from the left. But it really is a race between Ms. Freeland and Mr. Carney. Ms. Freeland has done her best to distance herself from Justin Trudeau. She publicly quit on him in December, but of course she also quit on Canadians at the same time. Mr. Carney's tried to distance himself from Mr. Trudeau, but as we heard in the last segment, he has the same ethical traits as the Prime Minister. And just a few months ago, Mr. Carney was an employee of Mr. Trudeau, serving as chair of the Leaders' Task Force on Economic Growth, which makes me wonder after the debate if Mr. Carney got 30 pieces of silver for that performance. Ms. Gould is running proudly as a Trudeau Liberal and received what I would consider quite complimentary reviews after the debate. Mr. Bayless acquitted him himself quite well as the common sense candidate, professionally saying he couldn't commit to timelines for balancing the budget or hitting NATO defense spending. So, I envy Liberals. They have a wide range of candidates to choose from in the weeks leading up to a week Sunday, I think it is. So we'll see where it goes.
Okay. What do you think about what's been put in the window by these leadership contenders, Jordan?
Yeah, so I mean, most of the time they just spent their time on stage agreeing with each other. I mean, there was no big kind of cut and thrust moments. I think part of that is that it's a foregone conclusion that Mark Carney is going to win now in everyone's mind, so everyone's kind of trying to audition for the next steps. I think for Frank Bayless, to Neil's point, he's put some interesting kind of points out there. Perhaps just trying to set himself up for, maybe a future cabinet post, help him out in his local riding if he decides to run locally. Same with Karina Gould, trying to perhaps audition for a future leadership run. And then Ms. Freeland and Carney are quite good friends. But I don't think anyone's actually done anything to really distance themselves effectively from Trudeau. As Neil was saying, I mean, Commissioner Freeland's been right by his side since 2015 and before, but at the cabinet table from 2015 on. Mark Carney's been there as his top economic advisor, and now they're trying to basically run away from all of their big policy priorities that they've been pushing as short as a few months ago. So I think Canadians won't necessarily be fooled. I know the Conservative attack machine is ramping up now. With one of the first ads coming out in Carney today, so obviously they're gonna put all their resources behind that to make sure that message really gets out.
Yeah, I think we have some of that new attack ad, David. Why don't we play that? This is the latest from the Conservative Party.
Trump seizes on weakness, and nobody's weaker than Mark Carney. Carney sold out Canada when he moved his company's headquarters to New York, giving Canadian jobs to America.
You sneaky.
Carbon tax Carney. If Carney wins, Canada loses.
Right. Pretty quick turnaround with the material from the Conservative War Room. It's pretty crazy. But look, if Mark Carney, I'll say Mark Carney ends up winning this thing. I mean, I know I've asked you this before. Does he call an early election? Does he wait a while? And let's say there is an election. Would you want a long election campaign or would you want a short election campaign? Neil, what would you say?
Well, you're probably sick of me saying this. Investment bankers shouldn't be politicians. I think Mr. Carney's handlers will force an election almost immediately.
Yeah.
They can't afford any more unforced errors, and they need to try and capitalize on the modest bounce in the polls if those can be sustained. And for those reasons, I think it'll be a normal length election campaign of whatever it is, 5.5 weeks or so. But yeah, they have to go right away before Mr. Carney sticks his foot in his mouth anymore.
So about 40 days or so. Nothing like 2015 when it was like 79 days or whatever that was, the never-ending election campaign. The short election campaign, do you agree with Neil? Like you would want it short as possible, maybe? As short as allowable, yeah. Jordan?
Yeah, if I'm Mark Carney and his team, short and quick. Right after the leadership race, I think he gets the title prime minister, wherever it has to do with machinery government, but then it's off to the races. They would say this, what, he won't have time. I mean, he says one thing in English, says something different in French, and that's only going to get worse. He hasn't actually been tested on a debate stage yet. I mean, these debates this week, kudos to the Liberal Party for putting on a good show of unity, but he hasn't actually been tested. And when he gets into a French debate with Pierre Poilievre and François Blanchet, or even an English debate with Pierre Poilievre, it's going to go quite differently for him. And I think these polling bumps that the Liberals have been getting will start coming back to earth pretty quickly.
We have some polls that say the Liberals are in the lead. Oh, one poll has the Liberals in the Ipsos has the Liberals in the lead by 2 points. Another has from Leger has it a statistical tie. Liberals and Conservatives statistical tie. Neil, do you think the Conservatives have blown a 26-point lead in the last 6 weeks?
No. Listen, I think the Conservative Party is as strong as ever. The Liberal Party is benefiting from a honeymoon phase while they're leaderless. The Conservative Party, as we heard, is testing some new messaging against Mr. Carney. I'm not sure creepy is going to stick, but definitely his own goal on lying is probably going to stick to him. You know, all the Conservative Party has to do is tell people Mark Carney is a Liberal. I think the Liberal brand in Canada is tarnished. Mr. Carney is a Liberal who advised Trudeau on all the economic decisions that gave you rampant inflation, that gave you $10 cauliflower, that gave you unaffordable housing. And I think once that connection is made to the public, I think you'll see the numbers settle back down. They might not go down to the depths that Mr. Trudeau saw, but I don't think they'll be close at all once Canadians go to the polls, whenever that may be.
Okay. Do you think the Conservatives have blown a 26-point lead in the last 6 weeks? Jordan Piquette.
No, I don't think so. I mean, if you're looking at some of these polls, the Conservatives haven't really, nosedived. They haven't really gone down. Some of where they're at has been where Conservatives have previously won government and elections. This is their current level of support. But to that point, I do agree with Neil that I think they're just going through a bit of a honeymoon phase now that Trudeau's gone. But let's look at one of the most recent examples where we've seen that an incumbent left a new person in, and then went on to lose the election quite handily. And that was in the U.S. with Kamala Harris. Joe Biden stepped aside. Democrats got super excited. Here's our new standard bearer, a new kind of shiny pony, if you will. And then the campaign ended up just failing miserably, and they couldn't happen. So not to make any comparisons for that, but for Trump or anything like that. But these things do tend to happen in politics. Somebody new comes in, and people are excited for a bit, but then once the campaign actually gets underway, it all comes crashing back to earth.
Okay. I know everybody's getting ready for the nail-biter of an Ontario election conclusion tonight. We'll see what happens as Doug Ford goes for the repeat. Would you expect a record low voter turnout in this election, Neil? Do you think it'll be a record low for voter turnout in Ontario?
I don't know if it'll be record low, but it'll be low, that's for sure. I think Ontarians are generally happy with the direction of the province, regardless of what the public sector unions might say, like the teachers and the nurses, who are always angry at any Conservative government.
Any government. Yeah.
I think Mr. Ford and Ford Nation are back for another 4 years. He's a great retail politician. He gives the people what they want and doesn't really pay attention to annoyances, if I can say it like that. and he stays as much as possible out of people's lives, and that's all you can ask for a politician.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
we'll
that's
see
our
who forms
time.
the official opposition. That's the real race today.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Great to hear from you. All the best, especially you, Jordan. You sound a bit under the weather, so do take care.
I'm just fighting off a cough, but otherwise I'm good.
Right.
Yeah,
That's good.
I'm
Okay.
good.
Well, fisherman's friend, my friend. Jordan Paquette, Senior Consultant, Blue Sky Strategy Group. Neil Brody, longtime conservative strategist. Talkback, coming up on News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. It's 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day, and today's topic, federal politics and the great liberal comeback. The great liberal comeback. According to some of the recent polls, the Liberal Party has erased a 20-point deficit with the Conservatives in less than 2 months. And now it's not out of the realm of possibility that the Liberal Party, yes, the Liberal Party, with a new leader, could win the next election, especially if that new leader is Mark Carney. And I would remind you that the country could be just weeks away from the start of a federal election campaign. So here's what we want to know today. What do you think about the idea of the Liberals winning the next election? 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. What if the Liberals win the next election? What would you think? Would you think, hey, that sounds good to me? Sounds good to me. I didn't like the idea of a conservative government anyway. I would prefer the Liberals to win. Or would you say, are you out of your cotton-picking mind? Why would anyone vote for the Liberals? I guess those are two possible answers among many. But what do you think about this idea? The Liberals win the next election. Imagine, millions of Canadians are watching the returns roll in, and there it is. The networks say, we project a Liberal government. Would you say that's okay with me? Beats the alternative? Or, oh my gosh, after the last 9 years, what are people thinking? People would have to be crazy to vote for the Liberals again. Just what would you say? We have phone lines available. I'd love to hear from you today. 1-833-668-2577. I mean, some of these poll results that have been coming in, they're incredible. They really are incredible. It's been quite a turnaround for the Liberals. It's amazing how their fortunes have changed since Justin Trudeau announced he was leaving, and since Donald Trump started trash-talking Canada and threatening Canada with tariffs and talking about wanting to make Canada the 51st state. I think the Liberals should be sending champagne and chocolates to Mar-a-Lago. I mean, think about this. Think about where things stood around Christmas time. Around Christmas time, the Liberals were basically dead and buried. You may remember, Justin Trudeau, he wasn't even doing year-end interviews with the news media. He was playing hide and seek with the news media when he wasn't hitting the slopes. Meanwhile, Pierre Poilievre was out there. He was doing all kinds of interviews. I interviewed him. And almost all of the questions had the same kind of framing. If you become prime minister, Mr. Poilievre, what will you do about this and that and the other thing? Because it appeared as it's only a matter of time until it's Prime Minister Poilievre leading this big conservative majority government. It was almost like some kind of foregone conclusion that the Liberals were going to be wiped out. And the Conservatives would win such a landslide, it would rival the Mulroney win back in 84. That was barely 2 months ago. My, how times have changed. This week, there was an Ipsos poll. We interviewed the CEO of Ipsos, been around a long time. Seen a lot of crazy political races in his day, Daryl Bricker. His polling firm has the Liberal Party in the lead. In the lead for the first time in 4 years. Not a big lead. It's only 2 points, but it's a lead. After the Liberals have been behind, for 4 years, you have to go back to the fall of 2021 to find an Ipsos poll that had the Liberals ahead of the Conservatives. In fact, about a month ago, the Conservatives were in the mid-40s. The Liberals were at about 19%. Since then, straight line up for the Liberals. A slow descent for the Conservatives. Near collapse for the NDP. Well, in Quebec, the Liberals have overtaken the bloc in that province. And Bricker told me yesterday what was once a 26-point lead for the Conservatives just 6 weeks ago is gone. Poof! Vanished. And now it's a 2-point lead for the Liberals. Liberals 38, Conservatives 36. And the Liberals at 38, I mean, that's a big number for them. That's almost what they scored in 2015 when Justin Trudeau won his one and only majority government, and he was all shiny and brand new. The Liberals won 39% of the vote in that election. So if the Liberals are at 38, Liberal majority government is not out of the question. Now, there's no election campaign underway right now, but we could be in one very, very soon. And the Liberals will once again have a brand new leader and lots of momentum. We have Canadians rallying around the flag, and they've got their big bad guy, Donald Trump, who's going to play a huge role in the upcoming election campaign. And it would seem that according to some of the polls, that 20-point lead that the Conservatives enjoyed, it has pretty much evaporated. And it's also looking kind of bleak for the New Democrats as well, to tell you the truth. So you could say it's a brand new race. This is not the same race it was 2 months ago or even 1 month ago. Everything has changed. For the Conservatives, you could say everything's been broken. And for Conservative supporters, dreams of Prime Minister Poilievre leading a big majority government have instead been replaced by nightmares, with Conservative staffers waking up in a cold sweat in the middle of the night, shivering in the fetal position, wondering how it ever came to pass that it's even possible that the winning party in the next election could be the Liberal Party. What we want to know is if that does come to pass. If that is the outcome of the next election, what would you think? Sound good? Never a Poilievre fan to begin with? Or are you out of your freaking mind? 4 more years of the Liberals? I can't take 4 more days. Or, somewhere in between. We just want to know your opinion on the new political reality in Canada. 1-833-668-2577. Diane in Calgary up first. Diane. Thank you, Diane, for calling. You're on the air. What's your opinion?
Hi. Quite frankly, it looks like Carney is going to be for the Liberals.
Yes.
He says that he's a European citizen, not a Canadian. He just recently sent or moved his company to the U.S. I think he's going to sell out Canada to Trump or whomever. He is not going to be for Canadians. I think that when he says one thing in French and the opposite in English, you can't trust him any more than you can trust Trudeau right now. And I'm sorry, but I don't agree with the East. I think that, again, if Ontario and Quebec put in a Liberal Party for the next 4 years, then I think you're going to see massive talk in the West of separating. And yes, I get it that the East consider the West people as rednecks and that we don't know anything, we're uncultured. But I'll tell you something, Quebec would be a third world country if they didn't have our finances from Alberta alone. Saskatchewan, 74% of the people said they would rather move to the States and be part of Canada under a Liberal Party for the next 4 years.
Right. So let's say there's an election, Diane. Let's say there's an election, okay? And you're watching TV that night and the news anchor says, we project the Liberals will win the election. What would be your reaction to that?
I'm hoping the same thing that it was with Trump and Clinton during the first term, that the media were wrong, that the polls were wrong. I think that the polls are still wrong. I don't trust everything because you don't know who the polls are talking to. You don't know what area, what gender, you don't know the age. So I just, I get it that the
You're
Maritimes
kind of doubting
are,
it right now. You're kind of doubting it right now that this has happened, right?
I am
Fair
doubting,
enough.
and
Fair
I'm
enough.
hoping for Canada that they are wrong. I think we need to we gave Trudeau 9 years of our lives and money.
Okay,
we need
well.
to give the Conservatives time, 4 years. Let's see what they can do. It can't be any worse than what Trudeau
Okay, I'm going to
has
move
done.
along because I have a lot of calls to get to in the next 2 hours. Diane, but I got you loud and clear. Let's go to George in Alberta. Hello, George.
How are you today, sir?
I'm good, George. So imagine this, okay, 2 months from now or whenever, okay, the returns are coming in and it looks like the Liberals are going to win. What do you think? What's your reaction to that?
I would say that would be the worst thing. Canada would be broken forever because I, for one, and I don't believe any of these polls. I think it's bull crap because I'm a little horse trader. Oh, Abacus still has the Conservatives 13 points ahead or something. So them guys.
So you believe that one? So you believe that one?
That one I believe because.
Oh, you believe that one because it confirms what you want. It confirms what you want to see happen, right?
Well, it confirms what I want. Well, no, because of what it confirms is they're honest. Now, I know the other two are big Liberal supporters, and you can't deny it. I mean, they've already been.
I don't know I don't know the political leanings of any of these pollsters. I think.
Yeah, come on. Okay, you could say what you want, but we know. But anyways, if that would happen, I would be flying my independent Dominion of Alberta flag. This very second. Okay. That means that means once again my vote would be useless.
Right.
I've told you this before. If it's over, the flag's been designed. It has a wild rose in a shield, and then on one side is a rampant grizzly bear, and the other side is a rampant elk. And our motto will be in Latin: truth, justice, and freedom. And we're out.
All right. And you're out. Okay, you're out of here. If the Liberals win the next election, you're out of here. Okay, George, thank you. Steve is in Calgary. Hello, Steve.
Well, we believe what we want to.
Well, apparently the last caller believes the poll said he likes. Anyway.
I believe I'm healthy because I eat McDonald's fries. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay.
Okay, so my first election is 72, and because Bob Stanfield fumbled a football, he looked weak in the eyes of Canadians.
Right.
And in 74, they promised wage and price controls. The Tories were too honest. Trudeau said, never going to happen. He wins. He brings them in anyway. Chrétien said he'd get rid of the GST and free trade. Never happened. So this is my take on it. A couple months ago, I said that they don't have two platforms. They need to have a new leader, develop a new platform, then govern.
Who's the they you're talking about?
Referencing the Liberals. They need to ditch Trudeau, which everyone agreed.
Well,
now they're going to have a platform, but I want them to wait until October. Now we have two competing parties that we can literally look for. But the Tories have this big problem in that, one, Ontario and Quebec only vote federal Tory when they really have no other choice. They just see the Liberals as not doing, like Ignatieff, you remember him. They just said, can't really do with that guy. And the thing about the other problem the Tories have is their leader. The guy acts like a frat boy, and he's got to stop doing that. He's got to look and act like a leader, not as somebody trying to impress his frat brothers at a party. And that's what he does. And you can't have the media mad at you all the time. That doesn't help either. Bottom line is, I think the Liberals may win.
And how would you feel if they did? How would you feel if they did? That's more or less what I'm asking. How would you feel if they did?
Thing. I'm from Alberta, and we're taught everything Liberal bad. No. Chrétien and Trudeau and Martin gave us good governance. We don't accept that reality here, but they did.
Are you saying you'd be okay with it? Are you saying you'd be okay with it? Because I'm right at a time. I need an answer from you.
I'd be okay with it.
You'd be okay with it. All right. I got you down there. Thank you, Steve, for your call. Stop here. Back on the phones. 1-833-668-2577. Could be just weeks away from an election. Some polls are saying the Liberals could win that election. What if the Liberals win? 1-833-668-2577. Rick in Dartmouth. Hello, Rick.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, Rick.
Polls. Interesting, that you're having this discussion because of the polls. But what one must remember is polls are accurate depending on how many people are surveyed. But the average is 3 or 4 points, plus or minus 3 or 4 points, 19 times out of 20.
Mm-hmm.
So that means there's this 20th time, which is an outlier. And I would suggest that might be the case in this particular situation, because I can't believe that the Liberals would be tied or near tied with the Conservatives in Quebec when the front runner for the Liberals can't speak French. I can't remember a time in my lifetime, which, 75 years or less, that anybody was leading in Quebec that couldn't speak French. So I'd say that, first of all, but also that it's good for Conservatives to not be complacent.
Maybe.
So this
okay.
could boost the Conservative, pardon me?
I'm just agreeing with you. Yeah, on the complacency issue.
That's all.
Yep.
So I don't expect the Liberals to win. I expect Carney's Emperor with no clothes shield to be stripped bare by Pierre Poilievre in the first debate they have. Carney just has too much baggage. So,
okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, Rick. Let's go to Mike in Calgary just before the news here. Mike. Hello, Mike.
Hi.
What would you think of the Liberals one?
Get in. I'm split because
split. Okay.
I'd like to, it seems to me Carney's taken Poilievre's talking points, which may have contributed to the rise in the poll. But the other part of it is, I could sit back, watch the Liberals get in power, and sit back and watch the Toronto real estate market turn into what the Calgary real estate market was in the 80s under his father. And as interest rates go up and inflation goes up, the bank's going to have to raise interest rates. And I could sit here in Alberta and just enjoy the collapse of the Toronto real estate market.
Okay. All right. So you'd be like, well, Toronto voted for the Liberals, so Toronto, you're going to reap what you sow.
Well, the whole East.
The whole East, okay.
Real estate values go through the roof. They're all mortgaged. Start applying a higher percentage rate to those huge mortgages and figure out where you're at.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mike, in Calgary. Would kind of take some kind of perverse pleasure in it by the sounds of things. 1, 2, 3 lines available. 1-833-668-2577. Join us after the news.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We are asking today, what would you think if the Liberals win the next election? We've had a poll out this week that shows the Liberals in the lead. We've had another poll out this week that shows the Liberals are tied with the Conservatives with just weeks away from an expected election call. What if the Liberals win? What would you think about that? Happy, sad, despondent? 1-833-668-2577. I mean, when a poll comes out and it shows the Liberals gaining and the Conservatives falling, it's interesting to see some of the comments on the news websites, scroll through social media about this trend that's actually been underway for a few weeks now. I mean, Liberals are thrilled to no end, of course. Their party up until about 2 months ago was all but left for dead. A lot of people were ready to write the obituary for the once great Liberal Party. But not only has this party been resurrected, according to some of these polls, mostly thanks to Trump, now it is in remarkably great position to even win the next election, something unthinkable just 2 months ago. I must ask you about it. Lori in Calgary. Hello, Lori. Thanks for calling, Lori.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me on.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I'm leaving.
You're leaving. Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
100%.
Really?
I'm a 58-year-old entrepreneur. I have two boys. One's 23 and one's 24. I have built a few companies, some with success, some with not. But what I've really come to realize here in Canada is that our enormous tax code, the lack of support and understanding of entrepreneurs and how capitalism actually works, it just doesn't seem that we have the discernment that we once had. And, it's a global economy that we're all sort of working in. And, I'm not anti-services or social services. I'm a staunch conservative, but I absolutely believe that these programs are so critically important. But what concerns me when I talk to people is that they are so partisan on the person and the messaging, but unfortunately we don't get to talk enough about what's going to actually happen to our country if our debt keeps increasing and we're not being fiscally responsible. It was over for me. I've never voted for Trudeau, but it was over for me when he said, listen, I don't think about the economy. I don't care about the numbers. I leave that to the economists. We cannot have a leader who does not understand what fiduciary responsibility is. And I just really wish all Canadians, regardless of what side they fall on, that they really took time to understand the critical importance of the stage that our country is in. So for me, I just think that, I'm very much committed to building out my business, and I'm having an incredible time doing it. We're now taking a North American focus, and we're going to move into the U.S. market. But, I wish I could call in today and say, listen, I'm doubling down on Canada. I'm a massive patriot. I love this country. I love the people of Canada. But unfortunately, I think there's so much damage done that for my family, it's going to be a long time that we can economically recover from this. And when you look at, my two boys, 24, 25, both university graduates, one has already moved to the States. His entry-level salary is 3x of what it would be here in Canada. Never mind the benefits, et cetera, that are afforded to him. And my other son most certainly is on his way. So, it's a completely different sort of global business mindset that I think we really need to start paying attention to, and talking less about DEI and these other social programs that are a distraction for what is, if you don't have the fundamentals right, you're not going to be able to build anything else.
Okay. So again, if the Liberals win, you're out of here. That's the big takeaway.
I'm out regardless. I'm out regardless.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right, Lori, thank you. Eric in Cole Harbour up next. Eric, what's your opinion? What if the Liberals win?
I would not like it. I'll use the old adage. If the people of Canada don't understand the mess that the Liberals have made of Canada, and once their glorious leader Trudeau has gone, do they actually think that's going to change anything? I really advise everybody, and I feel very strongly about this, Rob, pay attention to the website of the WEF. This is not conspiracy theory. Carney is in lockstep with the World Economic Forum. And what frightens me is if you believe in freedom of speech, if you believe in diversity of money, if you believe in freedom of religion, and if you don't believe in geriatric suicide, what they're doing with people with MAID, then if you vote for Carney, then, as I say, if you don't see the useless policies of Trudeau and the people of the Liberal Party as they stand right now, you can't fix stupid, Rob. And I tell you, I find it very, very frightening.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
All right.
I know
what you mean. Yeah, sure. Okay. All right. Thank you. You can't fix stupid. All right, Eric. Thank you. Why don't we stop here? Gary, if I bring you on, you'd only have a minute. So you just hang on there in High River, Alberta, and we'll get to you next as we ask you just, for your honest opinion. We could be in an election campaign in 2 weeks. It could come that fast. 5 weeks later, the returns could be coming in. What if those returns are showing what was unthinkable just a month ago, and that the Liberals will form the next government. What would be your reaction to that? Maybe you'd be thrilled with that outcome. A lot of callers to the show right now or not, but if you think, yeah, it wouldn't be so bad, give me a call. All opinions are welcome on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
What would you think if the Liberals won the next election? Gary in High River. Hello, Gary.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, Gary. So would you be setting off fireworks or crying yourself to sleep? What would you be doing?
It really doesn't make any difference to me because what I would like to see, it's a big dream, is for Alberta to separate from Canada, and I don't want to be American, but Alberta be its own country. There are small countries in Europe, there are small countries in Africa, they do it, and just to sum it off, put a pipeline to the south, north, east, west, have the oil ready. You want it, it's there. And then whoever has to build to those pipelines. That's, a dream, but that's what I would love to see.
So are you saying you don't even want to be Canadian? You don't want to even be Canadian? You just want to be Albertan?
I don't want to be Canadian. I want to be Albertan. I don't want to be American. So I'm done.
You're done already.
So
doesn't matter who wins the election.
Nope. Exactly.
Okay.
But I'm at work, and I'm going to go. And
okay. All right. Well, I thank you for hanging in there, Gary. Sorry to hear that you feel that way. Okay. Hope it never comes to that, Gary. It's a great country. Love to keep it together, but appreciate the sentiment, no less. Jim in Lethbridge as well. Hello, Jim.
Hi. Hey.
Quite a few Alberta separatists calling today. Are you an Alberta separatist as well?
No, I'm not.
No?
I
Okay.
love Canada. Canada's great. What I find interesting is either these polls are wrong,
okay,
or the people have made an indictment about Trudeau, but not about the Liberals. They don't want Trudeau, but they want the Liberal agenda, and that's whatever happened to the all Liberals are complicit with. Because they all went along with Trudeau's agenda. Whatever happened to that argument? If the polls, you're right, the Liberals have gained a lot in the polls. They have. But why? Do the people really just hate Trudeau, but they love the Liberal agenda? That's what it sounds like to me.
Okay. Well, maybe a lot of it has to do with Trump and the threats of Trump rallying around the flag. And if the question is, I'm just spitballing here. If the question is who would best be able to deal with the threat of Trump and tariffs and manage the Canadian economy, maybe Carney is prosecuting that case better than Poilievre right now. Maybe. It's just one idea that's out there,
Yeah, but what I find also interesting is we haven't heard a lot of we hear a lot from obviously with the leadership contest going on right now, we hear quite a bit from the Liberal candidates, but we haven't really heard a lot from Poilievre in the first month of Trump's mandate. So I think once the election is much more from Poilievre, but I wish that he would speak up more. I wish he'd speak up more.
You want to hear more from Poilievre? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, very interesting. Okay. Jim in Lethbridge, thank you so much. Gerald in Lethbridge is up next. Gerald.
Yeah, a lot of Westerners.
Yeah. That's okay.
Well, and again, Westerners, when the majority of the votes are in Ontario, and with, great power comes great responsibility. What are you people doing? Then we talk separatists and we're anti-Canadian. Vote for Canada. Don't vote for just your back door. Vote for all of Canada. Because your votes matter more than anybody's. And until that happens, there's going to be so much dividing in this country. And the politicians, I don't care which ones.
Right.
It's horrible.
Okay.
And you know what? Trump is doing what Trump's doing. That's not our government. Our government is in charge of being prepared for that. And they weren't prepared.
Yeah. But let's just kind
I don't know
of
if
circle
the
back and
conservatives-
refocus here. Okay. Let's kind of circle back and refocus.
Okay.
There's a clear trend in the polls that shows conservatives slipping, certainly not as much as the New Democrats, and a lot of momentum for the Liberal Party. And we've had 2 polls out this week. One shows it's a tie. The other has a slight lead for the Liberals.
Right.
And as I say, in 7 weeks' time, the election could be settled. What if 7 weeks from now the election is settled and it's another Liberal government? What would you think about that?
Then Ontario has spoken, and they want their bullet train, and they don't really care about the
It'd
rest
probably
of Canada.
be Atlantic Canada, Quebec, and Ontario have spoken, right? And maybe BC as well.
We'll see. Like I say, even I seen an article on that bullet train that almost half of the population is on that route of Canada. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I live not far from that route, and and have lived there for 30 years. Never once got stopped in the street and said, "You know what we really need around here, Rob, is a bullet train."
No, and I'm not saying that's what's causing this shift, but
Right.
Obviously you're talking about it more than pipelines, and pipelines
I don't think so.
Is what's going to take Canada out of this economic crunch and also pay for your bullet train, right?
Okay.
That's
Okay.
just the way it is.
Okay.
So,
all right, I can tell you, I won't be riding that bullet train in my lifetime, sir. That's just an evergreen announcement from the Liberals. They've been promising that for 58 years. That bullet train. They just pull it out every time around election time. Okay, Bruce is in Halifax. Hello, Bruce. Let's take a call from Halifax. Hi, Bruce.
Hello, Rob.
Hi, Bruce.
Hello, Rob. Can you hear me?
I hear you just fine, Bruce. What would you think?
I would say we should change our national anthem to Rape Me by Nirvana.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. Oh, my gosh.
If the Liberals win again, yeah. Because that's what they do to my paycheck.
Okay. Okay. You would not be happy.
Not at all. No.
Okay.
No. Like your previous caller said, like, how can you forgive 9 years of all those people voting with Trudeau?
Yeah.
They seem to place all the blame on Trudeau, but they followed him. So how can you re-elect them?
Yeah, right now it's as though people aren't really thinking about, say, the Trudeau record or the Trudeau legacy or the last 9 years. They're thinking about the more immediate threat of Trump and tariffs, and that is what has kind of breathed new life into the Liberals right now. That it's more, there's a greater sense of urgency to the Trump situation than whatever's happened over the last 9 years.
I think the media is just giving this one Ipsum poll too much credit. No way. You need to watch Jon Stewart. Did you see Jon Stewart after the Trump election? What he told the pollsters? He told the pollsters, "Blow me." You don't know.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And some people have said this could be a Kamala effect, right?
Exactly. Or same as Kim Campbell. Like, it's just
Kim Campbell.
Riding,
The very similar thing happened.
When we come to election day, they're going to crash. Yeah.
Yeah. Could be that. Kamala effect. I mean, remember the reports? Oh, Kamala Harris breathed new life into the struggling Democratic campaign after replacing Joe Biden on the ticket. Enjoys a honeymoon, more or less stays out of the spotlight, doesn't do interviews, runs a classic frontrunner campaign. And in the end, it turned out she wasn't really the front runner. And some of the polls were, as you say, were downright wrong. Right? Certainly that Iowa poll was most certainly wrong, Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what we're hoping for. One
That's
more
what you're
thing,
hoping
Rob.
for. Okay. Fair enough, Bruce. Thank you. Norman, just before the news, also in Halifax. Norman.
Yes.
Yes, Norman.
Rob, that would be a terrible thing.
Terrible thing. Okay. Why is that?
Well, honestly, for Mark Carney to go in there, he was 5 years advisor to Trudeau, and he says they didn't take all my policies. Well, just about all the Liberal policies were bad, so he certainly had to hand some of them. And he wants to up the carbon tax on business. That's certainly going to trickle down to the public. He wants to put a trade tariff on climate. Our biggest problem right now is trade and tariffs. What do you think that's going to do to Canada if you put the trade?
Like some kind of carbon tariff or something, yeah. Some kind of carbon, yeah.
It's crazy. And he's not out long enough for anybody to really know him. And in the little short time he's there, what little bit is trickling out doesn't sound good. It sounds to me like, if they get in there, they're going to push an election right away so people don't really know him. And I don't think it's an idea for that. I honestly don't.
Our very keen political observers expect an election call in 2 weeks, sir. In 2 weeks. And the shortest allowable election campaign. So this could all be settled, 7 weeks from now. Less than 2 months from now. What if the Liberals win? Because some of the polls suggest that. That's hour number one, a full hour just ahead of Talkback on News Radio. Some of the polls are suggesting that the Liberals could win the next election. And that's what we're asking here in hour number two of today's Talkback. What would you think if that actually happened and the Liberals won the next election? Would you do a dance of joy, or would you bury your face in the pillow and cry yourself to sleep? 1-833-668-2577. Now, the current Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, was in Montreal, and he was asked about these polls that show new life and renewed momentum for the Liberal Party of Canada. Let's listen to a little. It's about 2 minutes. I don't think we'll play the whole thing, but let's listen to a little bit of it here.
I have consistently said for many years now that as we approach an election, as Canadians actually reflect on the choice being offered to them between a party that has governed this country responsibly, created a strong economy that has the best balance sheet of the G7, lifted hundreds of thousands of kids out of poverty, created jobs, protected the environment, stepped up on fighting climate change in partnership with Indigenous peoples, moved forward on reconciliation, have been responsible and ambitious for this country, versus a party in the Conservatives that just shrug and say everything's broken, that don't believe in taking action against climate change, that don't believe in Indigenous reconciliation, that don't understand that the only way to build a strong economy is to invest in the people that actually make up that economy. The Conservatives continue to push trickle-down theories and tax breaks for the rich while couching it in the language of populism. I've said consistently for years now that as Canadians get closer to actually making a decision about the kind of country they want to live in, the kind of responsible government they want to have, with ambition but grounded in facts and evidence and data, not ideology.
All right, okay, all right. God almighty, he is insufferable sometimes, is he not? Basically, his message is, well, of course we're up in the polls. The election is coming, and of course Canadians would vote for the Liberals. Look how great we've been for the last 9 years. Oh, my gosh almighty. It's interesting that one of the big changes in the fortunes for the Liberals started after they finally got rid of that guy. Emerson in Calgary. Emerson, thanks for waiting. You're up next, Emerson.
Thank you very much. Well, first thing I would do if the Liberals won the next election, I'd start praying the Hail Mary full of grace. I don't think I'm going to have to do that because really, I think these Nanos and Ipsos polls, these guys have red blood. These guys have, I don't think they've really ever stomached the fact that the Conservatives were ahead by 26 points. I think it was killing them. But let's look at it this way. CNN is Democratic. Fox is Republican. You listen to those stations. Oh, Democrats going to win. Oh, look what Kamala's done. Oh boy, she's going to knock it out of the park. You listen to the Fox. Oh no, the polls are all wrong. So you know what I say to the people? Go with your heart. If you honestly believe that the Liberals did nothing wrong in 9 years, then vote Liberal and keep your beak quiet when things go south, because this guy Carney is a con job. He is a con job. And Rob, it sounded like that little clip that you just played at Trudeau. It sounds like he just came out of a bar and he's had too much to drink. Thank you very much. You're the best. I love you, buddy.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to Shane is in Alberta. Shane, hello, Shane. You're up next. What would you think if the Liberals won the next election?
Oh, I'd phone a realtor.
Okay, that's it. The for sale sign is going up at the end of the driveway?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Couple of things. I'll just try and be quick. So those guys from Halifax, it's nice to hear some people out east that feel the same way I do in Alberta here. Bruce and Norman, I think his name was. But like Dr. Phil says, a good predictor of future behavior is to look at someone's past. Well, Canadians have had almost a decade to examine what the Liberals have done. And if someone is still willing to support that group, Carney, Trudeau, and the rest, then in my opinion, there's no hope for that person. But I really don't think Canadians are that gullible anymore. And I think in 7 weeks from now, like you say, or however long it takes to shake out, I think that the damage is going to show itself in a historic way, out east especially. And diehard Liberals will have Justin Trudeau to thank for the gutting of that party. As far as the polls go, I mean, who's paying the bills? I don't buy that. I think that the Liberals are, gripping at straws, grasping at straws. I think to suggest that Carney has hit the ground running and somehow or another he's gained traction, and they're trying to spin a narrative that Donald Trump is somehow, helping them to, establish a bit of strength moving forward. That's a joke. If anything, Donald Trump is only making the Liberals look even more inept, because he wouldn't be saying the things he said if he had any respect for Justin Trudeau. It's no secret he has no use and no respect for Trudeau. He laughs at Trudeau. It's like talking to a little kid for a guy like him.
All right, Shane. Thank you. We'll see what happens and whether Shane's house is going up for sale maybe in about 2 months from now. 1-833-668-2577. Jody on the air in Calgary. Hello, Jody.
Hi.
Hi, Jody.
All I know is that, sorry, man. Whenever you played Trudeau there talking, I almost had to go to the toilet there.
I'm sorry if I triggered you there, Jody. I'll try to. Yeah.
Oh my God, he's so. Anyway, if that would happen, I'm dual citizen, and I would be moving back to the United States. I think that Carney is a con job. He's a World Economic Forum puppet globalist. And he's one of Trudeau's buddies. Like he's part of it's like voting for Trudeau again. You know what I mean? So I mean, and I don't believe the polls. The polls are very left in this country. We all know that. And like Nick Nanos, whatever, like that's one of Trudeau's buddies. And anyway, it's all a bunch of BS. It's all a bunch of BS. Like I think the polls are, like I said, like when it comes down to it, like to an actual election. And we hear Poilievre talking against Carney, who will be be the prime minister, because like those liberal things that they had, their debates, that was a joke. Like, I mean, they all love Carney, like Freeland and that girl, whatever her name is there. But yeah,
Rita Gold. Yeah.
I think it's all a big farce. But I would definitely be moving, because I'm just
you'll move.
Okay. I love this country.
All right.
Like, I love this country, but I am just disgusted for what's going on in this country.
That'd be the breaking point for you. You'd be calling the movers. Okay. All right. You're not the first to say that. You're not the first to say that. This has been a popular opinion today. Thank you for your call. Let's go to Ken is up next, also calling from Calgary. Lots of calls from Calgary today on this one. Hello, Ken.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, Ken. Are you packing up, leaving town? What would happen here?
Well, I always said that I would pack up and I would leave town, but really, do I want to be under Trump? I don't know. So
okay.
I don't know to me if that would be an upgrade or not. But I think the polls are probably. I'm hoping they're wrong, simply because a lot of these news medias get a lot of money from the government to keep themselves afloat, and I think they're just kind of doing what they're told to do.
Okay.
I've seen.
Well, nobody tells me what to do. Nobody tells me what to do.
No, not necessarily you.
It's not like I get a call from. It's not like people in Justin Trudeau's office call me every day and they're like, "Right, Rob Snow, this is what you need to talk about today, or else we're coming for you, buddy." Okay, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And if I show you my bank balance, you'd be thinking like, well, where's all the media money? Like, how can you be this poor, Rob Snow, with all the government funding of the media?
Well, you don't own the radio station.
Right, but I'm telling you, even people
huge rallies and Carney's got nothing.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I can't see.
You don't buy it. You don't buy it.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not buying it. No, and as for moving to States, I might have to reconsider and move overseas or something to the Bahamas or something like that. That might be the answer. So for me.
Right.
But yeah, but that's all
Caribbean,
I gotta say.
a Caribbean tax haven has always been a dream of mine, I'll tell you. Thank you, Ken. Thank you. Good to hear from you today. I mean, there's another way to look at it. When it comes to the polls, you could say, of course the Liberals are up in the polls and the Conservatives are down. The Liberals had nowhere to go but up. I mean, one poll just before Justin Trudeau resigned had the Liberal Party at 16%. Okay, 16%. It was the lowest polling number for the Liberal Party in the history of the Liberal Party. That was from, I believe that was an Angus Reid Institute poll. So you could say, of course the Liberals are up. They had nowhere to go but up. And of course the Conservatives are down. They had nowhere to go but down. Did you really think the Conservatives are going to win with 47% of the vote in a race with 5 or 6 parties? Is unrealistic. So, of course, the Conservatives were bound to fall a little bit. We're talking about Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives. They're not angels. They could only touch the heavens for so long. But look, it's undeniable. There's been a trend in place. It's been visible for weeks. 2 months ago, almost all the polling firms had the Conservatives ahead by about 20 points. And at the start of the week, it was pretty by the start of this week, that lead that was 20 points pretty much cut in half. And most of the polling firms, and they're asking straight up, without using hypothetical leaders for the Liberal Party. Well, what if Mark Carney's right? Oh, what if Chrystia Freeland? Da 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 da. Just ask straight up who you want to vote for: Conservative, Liberal, New Democrat. The Conservative lead that had been 20 points is down to 10 points or less. And then in just the last few days, you've got the Ipsos poll, Liberals with a 2-point lead, not a big lead, 2-point lead, but the breaking news is that it's a lead. And the other from Leger, the most accurate pollster of them all in the last election. Conservatives still in the lead, but the lead is 3 points. And when you take in the margin of error, as I said, you could basically call it a tie. You basically call it a tie. But that means the Liberals are in a position where it's not out of the question. They could win this thing. If the election call is in 2 weeks and it's a short campaign, it's just 5 weeks, maybe in about 2 months from now, we're talking about another Liberal government. That's why we're asking, what if the Liberals win again? What would you think of that? 1-833-668-2577. Mark is up next. You're on the air, Mark. What would you think, Mark?
Well, hi there. Thanks. Like
You're
your
welcome.
show.
Thank you.
I must say, I want to bring this point of view up that is not getting picked up on.
Okay.
This Pierre Poilievre is not getting the reason the Liberals are creeping up so quickly, that he's not really a good deal. He's one of the, I call him like the Messiah conservative guy, right? He's promising everything. His ads, anything you could possibly be fearing, he's going to fix it.
Right.
So
okay.
we don't buy that. I don't buy that. They can't fix it all. So he's not. We've had to tolerate that against a Trudeau, who people we all despise him. I would tell you I'm more of a liberal-leaning kind of person or a socialist kind of person. I don't know, but however, the Carney, he shows up. We know all the guys are saying, "Oh, he's another puppet," blah blah blah. But he's just a businessman. He looks legit. I'm not going to comment on the other ones, Freeland and whatnot. I don't think they're strong enough. So the conservative history is they go into these Messiah-type leaders. I'm old. I'm 68. I saw Mulroney come, the great Messiah. By the end of his term, the economy was trashed. We were in trouble. Harper, the great,
Well,
by
in
the time he was
between,
done,
Mr. Mulroney won 2 huge majority governments. Let's not forget that.
Oh yeah. Right. Like, I mean, I think I even voted for him.
Okay. Right.
Tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Because we buy into this. We crave leadership. We crave vision.
Sure.
As much as you hated Pierre Senior Trudeau, he always offered some kind of leadership vision that we could fight about, talk about. But it's also watered down, and the puppetry of the Justin Trudeau's and such.
Okay.
If I'm allowed to just take one little global perspective, could I just run it by you?
Go ahead.
Here's the thing I always realize or say: Pierre Trudeau's, and all these guys are just not important. They're not important because we have this global economy that's long since owned, bought, and paid for by the generational wealth of history. They're all into they already own it. That's why the Gates and all these guys are new money. They're not important either. Musk, all these guys. The old money is entrenched. They tell us our commodities. They tell us our gas. They tell us what our interest rates are, et cetera, et cetera. If you guys get the picture.
Okay.
Right? It's old money.
Gotcha. Okay. Just to tie a bow on this, you think if there is a narrowing of this race, that's some of it has to do with the failings of Poilievre, then?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
He's just sold the farm by, Canadians are smart, and we have our differences, but we'll see a scam and a sham. That's why I think we hate Trudeau so much. Like I say, I love it. You know what I mean? As I say, as a liberal, but
you sound like an equal opportunity critic to me, to be honest with you, and I can appreciate that. All right, we do have to run. I thank you for your call. I thank you for your call. You do make some interesting points, and that's what we love to hear around here.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Some of the polls that have been released this week, not all of the polls, but some of the polls that have been released this week suggest the Liberals could win the next election. What would you think if they did? I mean, would you be setting off fireworks, or would you feel like we had to declare 5 days of national mourning? 1-833-668-2577. Nicole in Calgary. Thanks for waiting, Nicole. You're up next. What would you think?
Hi. Neither. I wouldn't be celebrating or not. Like, it's disappointing that these are our only choices. In this day and age, that we have to choose a whole party for everything, because they're both too extreme, in my opinion. We need to be more fiscally and socially responsible. But everybody's greedy and everybody's getting rich in politics. I do have a few things that anybody that was only seeing red and saying they would move to the States if Trudeau or the Liberals win and stuff, please don't let the door hit you. But if they wanted to fix something, these conservatives, all they would have to do is say, Poilievre, get your record or your sign off on your clearance. Why is no one talking about that? Because you might as well have a hacker do your banking then. Him not having a clearance is the biggest red flag, and that's their big problem. Yeah, well.
Oh, really? Okay. I asked him about that. I asked him about that around Christmas time. I asked him on the radio about that, and he said it's all stuff and nonsense, and that if he read that report, he'd be silenced from ever talking about it again. It's an attempt to muzzle him and never talk about it again.
Oh, that is smoke and mirrors.
You don't believe him?
Oh my goodness! I don't believe that he even likes people. So
You don't think he likes people? Okay.
No, I think he's using everybody for his own gain and everything. In this day and age, what we're going through with North America politics, what we're seeing, come on. It's such a shame. And please, again, anybody that wants to be a 51st of anything, please beat it. We need to take care of ourselves.
Fair enough. I appreciate that. Now, you say it's too bad that these are our only choices, but there are other choices. I mean, there's the New Democrats, there's the Green Party, there's the People's Party. There are these other choices. As I say, there'll be five or six
you know what?
parties.
There are other choices, but unfortunately, people are still, my daddy voted this way, so I have to, and they won't learn new things or take in new information to see how the world has changed and what needs to happen. So I used to call it the Elizabeth Hasselbeck thing. My daddy said when she would talk, but now it's just so crazy that if it was a blind taste test like they used to do for cola, people wouldn't even know who they would vote for if it was presented in certain ways. Just and if you look on anybody that I read or goes on my Facebook or says their opinions, I can circle all their spelling mistakes that are all about being the 51st state. So I can't even believe the world we're in right now. It's sad. And whoever does take lead of our country needs to unite us and quit dividing us.
All right,
That's
Nicole.
all I think.
I appreciate you calling and sharing your opinion. Very passionate opinions there. Jonathan, up next. You're on the air, Jonathan. Hi there.
Hi, Rob. Good afternoon.
Hi, Jonathan. Good to hear from you, Jonathan.
Thank you for taking my call.
You're
I'm
welcome.
one of your loyal fan. I listen every day.
I appreciate
and
that, my friend.
I
Thank
love
you
your
so
show.
much. Thank you. Thank you again.
Yeah, back to the topic. I think the main reason why the liberals are resurrected from the dead is Mr. Mark Carney.
Okay.
That's it. If you take him out of the equation, liberals is dead. And to me, I just base it to my opinion. I think the polls. I agree with the polls because that's really reflected on what I feel right now. But that's not 100% sure that liberal will win though, because to me, we don't know yet really about what Mark Carney's how he's going to run the country. What gives him high hopes right now is based on his credentials and resume, basically resume, because you compare from Poilievre, in fairness to Mr. Poilievre, especially if the reason is economy, environment, and Trump, Poilievre will really know much to Mr. Carney when it comes to resume, the educational achievements, experience, and he achieves a lot in his in what he did in his professions, and that's a plus to him because of that, and and that's the reason why the liberals are resurrected from the dead. But it's not a sure thing yet, because I believe on Professor Lee's opinion, if Mr. Carney is just in the future just repackaging and rebranding the Trudeau government, if we saw that in the campaign, then most people will go to the conservative, and the liberal will die again.
Right.
But if Mr. Carney wins and he is on the right side, not on the left liberal, there's hope for us. But if he continue what Trudeau government is doing, then we're doomed. And that's all remain to be seen, though. All remain to be seen on the campaign.
All right. Yeah, campaigns matter, as you say. Thank you, Jonathan. Good to hear from you. Good to hear from you. Just on Mark Carney's, on his resume, I mean, it is an impressive resume. I mean, there's no
negative
doubt
thought.
about it.
It's just the right thing.
I mean, lots of letters after the name. Bachelor's degree in economics, Harvard, 1988. Master's degree in economics, Oxford, 1993. Doctorate in economics, Oxford, 1995. 13 years, Goldman Sachs in Toronto, London, Tokyo, and New York. Appointed deputy governor of the Bank of Canada, August 2003. Left to become senior associate deputy minister of finance, 2005. So, way up in the public service in the government of Canada, and then appointed governor of the Bank of Canada, February 2008. Departed the Bank of Canada June 2013, became governor of the Bank of England. UN Special Envoy for Climate Action. Finance and co-chair, Glasgow Finance Alliance for Net Zero. External member of Stripes Board. Chair of the board, Brookfield Asset Management. Chair of the board, Bloomberg. Chair of Chatham House Panel Senior Advisors. Member of the Global Advisory Board of PIMCO. Member of the Foundation Board, World Economic Forum, and external board member, Bilderberger. Oh, man, no wonder some corners of the internet love that guy. But from small-town Canada, some of the most influential positions in the world. And liberals will say, look, the guy is a Canadian success story. Joselito in Calgary. Joselito.
Hello, Rob. Thanks for getting my call.
You're welcome.
I basically, a lot of scenarios running on my mind right now, but the best I could put forward is I think Mr. Carney is at the right time, at the right place.
Okay.
And I think the odds are going on his way because prior to that, when Mr. Trudeau resigned and the parliament was prorogued, there's a lot of silence there.
Oh yes.
The politics was on a dead water for so long, for months on end,
Very
and
good
the
point.
politics was so. You see, and the people behind Mr. Trudeau and Mr. Carney's, political arms are really, I think, quite genius, working behind the scenes, working on those scenarios, and that's. I think this is the end product of what those works have been going on for the last month or so. And I hate to say that, but that's the way things are in politics. And I'm not really sorry for Mr. Pia Poli here, but I think she has to come up with some haymakers or what to even up the things and rise against the tide against the onslaught coming from Mr. Carney. And I think, and as you had mentioned earlier, the resume of Mr. Carney is quite impressive, except for those positions and government, the WF, the UM, WM, the Bilderbergs. I'm not quite sure, but those institutions have kind of some questionable agendas, and I really don't want to divulge in this, but I'm reading a lot of things about those, and it's really put
a lot of people have concerns about those organizations for sure. Okay, but you think things are breaking his way, and Poilievre better sharpen up. Okay, Joselito, thank you. Good to hear from you. Al is up next in Calgary. Hello, Al.
Hello.
Yeah, hi, Al. Picture it, Al. The Liberals win the next election. I mean, what's your reaction to that?
Well, I'd love it because I was a conservative for 30 years of my life, and then I realized, what road we were going down. But you had a guy on half an hour ago, said that you can't fix stupid.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
You look back 80 years ago, in Germany in 1930s. The guy had, he built a stadium to hold 300,000 worshipers for him. And you got the same situation across the border. In Canada, we've had at least a decent 1-2 party system. But, like I loved Pierre Chrétien. I love
Pierre Trudeau. Pierre Trudeau and
Jean Chrétien.
Jean Chrétien.
Hey, they've done us a hell of a... And here I sit in the middle of the oil industry, and I can't believe how these people downgrade the Liberals. Would a Conservative of any stripe ever taken over the Trans Mountain Pipeline and doubled their volume of oil to the border?
Well, but was it really necessary? I mean, why was that necessary in the first place, sir? Why was that necessary in the first place?
Because the American company that owned the system said, we will not do it.
We won't do it. It's too hard to build a pipeline in Canada. Too many protests, too many lawsuits, too many regulations that constantly change. And that was what, a $5.5 billion project that became a $35 billion government project when it was nationalized, sir. I wouldn't give the government any credit for that. They were forced into doing that.
Well, the Liberals have started, and they will start drawing in the natives, so that, like the one to the northern border, will go through the Indian reservations because they'll make them partners, for God's sakes.
Right. Another conservative idea, something the Conservative Party has been pitching. Indigenous ownership of natural resources projects, something various indigenous investment groups have been calling for years. I have to run. Thank you, though. You're a rare breed out there, Al, in Calgary today. Thank you. I appreciate your opinion, sir. I thank you for calling and sharing it. Be right back on Talkback.
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Dan in Red Deer. So, Dan, let's picture this. You and I are sitting down. We're watching TV in about 2 months from now, and the returns are coming in on election night, and it shows that the Liberals are going to win. What's your reaction?
My reaction would be packing my bags and heading to the States, honestly.
Really? Okay.
That's what my reaction would be. I mean, there's a couple of things. I wouldn't trust these polls too much. We've seen what happened in the U.S. election there, how wrong the polls were. But in the event that it would be right, and even anything less than a majority conservative government, I'll be packing up and heading to the States. I don't see how people cannot see that the whole predicament that we're in right now is the result of Liberal policies. And all hope will be lost, I think, if Liberals get back in. So. All
right. Dan, thank you for calling from Red Deer. This will be the last call for Talkback today. It's Chris out in Calgary. Hi, Chris.
Good afternoon, Rob. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Chris, what would you think?
I'll tell you, first of all, I'm not affiliated with the Conservatives, Liberals, NDP. I'm fairly independent. But
sure thing.
The way I look at it is, what does this country need? And what I think we need change. And if we elect the Liberals, then you're not going to see change, because Carney is just basically Trudeau 2.0 on steroids. I'm not terribly impressed with Poilievre, but he's the only other viable candidate that has a chance of winning. So I guess I have to say I'd go with him.
Right. You think you would think he would be the best opportunity for change. If you think the country is what it needs most is change, Carney's not change, and Poilievre would best represent change, even though, you're not totally thrilled with the guy.
Exactly, and I don't think I'm looking at radical change either. I mean, all of the politicians are basically the same in my view. So I'm not saying that we're going to do a 180 turnaround, but in terms of even having any change whatsoever, I think that the Conservatives are the option, not the Liberals. Carney talks a good talk, you know. He said, I'm going to get rid of the carbon tax and all of this other stuff, but talk is talk. And if you look at his background, like you mentioned when you were going through his resume, that he was on the WWF, he's a diehard environmentalist. These are all the things that we see in Trudeau that we don't like. And so if you get to Carney, you're just going to get the same darn thing.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chris. Hey, thank you for all your calls today. That was a really interesting couple of hours talking politics. Tomorrow, we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. We will follow your lead tomorrow. Friday, free for all talk back.